Well, hello. This is the first in a series of numerous videos I will make for you for this semester. And the title of this particular um, presentation is Organizing Data, which is the whole point of Microsoft Access, is to be able to organize data. So that's where we'll start. I do want to warn you that this video is going to be longer than the introductory videos that I had before, but I'll try to keep it fast if I can. I'm not very fast at talking, but we'll see. Anyway, so organizing data. So what I want to talk about in this particular video is about um, the tools that are used for organizing data, how spreadsheets are a common tool, and I want to get more in depth about that tool as a data organizer, managing data that's related, and how that can require or should require um, specific tools, namely a relational database management system, which is what Access is. So there are many different kinds of tools that organize electronic data. They're used, they're usually called software. And so anyway, it just depends on what you want to do with the data as to what tool that you use. For example, if you want an attractive document, you would use Word, for example. If you wanted to track scheduling, then you would use Outlook, or maybe you want to do email. All of those things manage data in some way. Excel is another really common tool that is used. It's very, very common. It's very easy to use. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then finally, we'll talk about relational database management systems and how Access is one of them. Okay? So here we can talk about spreadsheets, which I just said. They're easy to understand and easy to learn the software, and easily, you can manipulate the data the way you want. And people commonly use spreadsheets, often Excel, to keep track of all sorts of information. And here's some reasons why a spreadsheet or Excel would be really useful. For example, here is a very nice picture of a budget, and it does a very nice graphical presentation. Gives you totals. It's very organized and easy to understand. And so in this case, a spreadsheet is a really good option. And here's another option where this is basic data collection. It's just a list of the flowers that I track in my kitchen. And it just says whether it's organic, gluten-free, what it is, and then the expiration date on it. So obviously I have a few flowers that are out of date, but anyway, so this is just your basic list. And for this kind of situation, it's Excel or spreadsheets are a really good option. Okay. And here's another tool within the tool of spreadsheets that is really useful. Here we have comparison of a stock, BlackRock, and the S&P 500, and they are charts. And so you can easily get a good summary information about this data. So again, this is a good choice for this kind of data and what you want to get out of it. But sometimes you have lots and lots and lots of data. And I encourage you to think about, right, when you go to the doctor, for example, and you're at the doctor and the doctor has many, many patients. Well, think about how much you fill out on a form or how many spaces of information there are for you to be able to fill in. And you multiply all those pieces of data times all the number of patients that that doctor or the doctors in that office would have, you're talking about a lot of data. And so that's just one doctor's office. And think about the many thousands of doctors' offices, or maybe even millions of doctors' offices throughout the world. I mean, the idea of data is just really, really massive. And so data can get very complicated very fast. So here, right here, is a list of Khartoum College attendee contact data. So it's basically just something that I made up, Khartoum College, and then, you know, how to get a hold of them or whatever. So what I want to draw your attention to is the fact that this is a fairly simple list. It's just a bunch of street addresses, you know, the town, the state, zip, phone. But if we go to the next slide, we see that those particular students at Khartoum College actually attended workshops on note-taking and time management. And if you think about a college, there's lots and lots of activity that's happening all the time at a college, and there's lots and lots of data that's being generated. And so this is a small example of what could happen at our Khartoum College. So what I want to do is go back here, and I want to first draw your attention to Porky Pig's phone number, which I have circled. Okay. And then if I go and I look at that phone number there, and then I go over to the next slide, the phone number for Porky Pig doesn't match. And this is a common thing that happens. People change their phone number, right? Okay. And then the same is true for the Grinch. If you notice, the Grinch's phone number here is not the same as the phone number here. And so what is happening there is that the person in the office for registration and admissions would keep a list of all of the students' phone numbers and contact information in a spreadsheet. But because it's not linked to this particular data, then the information on this screen for the Grinch and Porky Pig is not updated on the contact data. And just to draw your attention to the fact that when people create Excel files, they commonly will put in repeating information from one file to the next. For example, maybe you would have information about tutoring, the students getting tutoring in one file, and you would have their phone number and all their contact information along with the service that they're providing or they're being given. And then on another side, another file that you might have the books they check out at the library. that, and if you put it in an Excel spreadsheet, then it would be the person's contact information again. Well, the duplication of this information and not linking between one set of data and another can really cause some problems with what's called data integrity. You cannot rely on the data to be correct because um, you'll run into a lot of times where it's written down correctly in one place, but not the other place. And so when that happens, where you have multiple places to write it, commonly it doesn't get updated. And then when you go back and you compare, you don't know which one is correct and which one isn't. So, so this gets to be a problem with using Excel. So in our example here, the phone number didn't get updated from one file to the other. Another thing that is a problem is you see this person right here, Betty Duck. Well, if we go back here and we look and see, there's no Betty Duck. Well, so who is Betty Duck? They're supposed to have gone through registration and admissions, but nobody knows who this is. So if these two files were linked, then the database or the software would know that Betty Boop married Daffy Duck. And so now she has taken on his name. So anyway, that's just something to keep in mind and consider that when you have multiple Excel files, it gets really complicated if you're duplicating data and keeping track of things. And if you have a database, then there are links between things. And so you only have to have the piece of information in one place. And so it's much easier to keep track of. So in databases, what they have are tables. And so the tables would generally keep track of one set of information, like the contact information, or you might keep track of all the books that are in the library. It's one set of information, and in those tables, they can have things, like fields in them. And those fields are like columns of information, such as the name of the person, the phone number, the address. And then the rows are like records. So for one person, you might have their name on a record, and then you would have for that person the phone and the address. And those are all related together and make a record. So tables tend to be constructed of fields and records. Okay? And those fields often have, well, no, actually each table usually has what's called a primary key. The primary key is a unique identifier of a certain set of data. So for example, if you think about your social security number, that is a unique identifier that identifies you to the IRS. So it would go in and look in a table, and that would be your social security number, and then there would be more information, more fields that relate to your situation, your set of data, and that data would all be identified with a social security number. And there are other kinds of identifiers too, if you think about it. For example, an S number, for those of you who attend Front Range Community College on a regular basis. An account number, like at a bank, is a unique identifier. It identifies information about the money that is held in that particular account. Or another identifier that's common is your fingerprint. That can be used by the police. So that's another identifier. So what I want to go over here is a more concrete example of what you might see in Access, where you would have a patient table and a visit table. And you'll notice here that you have fields inside this table, and then you have records. So like 22501 is a record, 22504 is a record, etc. So going across, record, coming down are fields. And the same is true here. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that we have a patient ID, which is an identifier for Edward Darcy and each patient. So the patient ID identifies the patient. And you'll notice that down in the visit table, there is a patient ID as well. So what happens here is that they have a visit ID, in other words, some sort of procedure or something, the reason that they came is the visit ID, and that's combined with the patient ID, and so those two together identify this particular record. Okay? But the thing I want to draw your attention to most is that you can tell which patient has received a visit service by looking at the identifier here. So for example, 22504, if you come up here, you can see that that's Lillian Aguilar and what the phone number is. So you didn't need to store everything in here. You could just go to a separate table that's linked and find that particular set of information. So in summary, I want you to be aware of how infinite data is. It's everywhere you go and so vast. And there are many tools that organize data, and it depends on the tool that is needed because the tool, it serves a certain purpose, and you have to think about what the purpose is. So many times with large kinds of data, people will use spreadsheets, but a better option is usually a database or a relational database management system like Access. And so structures of databases usually include tables, and those tables are made of fields and records, and they relate to tables via primary keys. And I'm almost at 20 minutes, so I will stop there.